Chosen ones, the truth no one told you is that awakening does not last forever in the way you might imagine. It is not a destination where you simply arrive and remain suspended in light forever. Awakening is a season, a process, a journey that brings you through many thresholds, and one day it reaches its completion. The end of awakening is not the end of your growth, nor the end of your connection to higher truths. Rather, it is the beginning of a new chapter where you step into your true power. There are signals, 7 profound signals, that whisper to you and sometimes roar to you that this phase has completed. Most people do not understand them. Most people mistake these signals for something going wrong. But chosen ones, they are signs that you are being handed the keys to live awakened, not just to awaken. And as I guide you through these truths, I ask you to stay with me until the very end of this message. Because only when you hear the full picture will it make sense. I also ask you to leave your warmest wishes in the comments below and write the number 66 along with them. This is not just an action, it is an energy, a vibration. When you place your words of hope and love there, you are not only sharing positivity with this community, but you are sending signals into the universe, magnifying your own intentions. Wishes carry power when spoken, when written, and when released. That simple act may be the spark that brings them into form. Now, let us walk deeper into the truth of these 7 signals, so that you may recognize them when they appear in your path. The first signal that your awakening is reaching its conclusion is a profound sense of inner silence. In the early stages of awakening, your mind becomes noisy, filled with realizations, epiphanies, bursts of energy, downloads of insight. It is like the universe is speaking constantly, and you feel compelled to chase every piece of wisdom. But as the cycle ends, the noise fades. It does not mean the universe has abandoned you. It means you have integrated the lessons. Silence comes not because there is nothing left to learn, but because you have embodied what was taught. You find yourself sitting in stillness without the need for answers. You stop running after signs because the sign is already within you. This silence can feel unsettling at first, especially if you were used to constant spiritual fireworks. But it is the mark of maturity, of stability, of a grounded spirit. The second signal is the disconnection from old identities. When awakening begins, you often feel like a different person from who you used to be, but near its end, you feel like you are no longer tied to any fixed self at all. You look at your past selves and see them as costumes you once wore. You recognize that even the identity of awakening one is just a temporary role. This can be disorienting. You may wonder, if I am not the person I was, and I am not even the spiritual seeker I became, then who am I? The answer is that you are becoming free. This is the death of attachment to roles and labels. You learn that the chosen one is not about wearing a badge of separation, but about living in the truth that you are both unique and one with all. This shedding of identity is the collapse of walls around your essence, so that your essence can move freely, unshaped by masks. The third signal is the balancing of extremes. Early awakening often swings like a pendulum, one day filled with bliss, the next overwhelmed with shadow. One day confident in vision, the next doubting everything. At the end, the pendulum slows. You no longer feel the need to ride emotional highs nor drown in lows. You step into neutrality, not as indifference, but as mastery. You can observe your emotions without becoming them, You can feel joy without clinging to it, and pain without fearing it. This balance is a sign that you are no longer being pulled apart by your transformation, but held together by your wholeness. Chosen ones. This is when your life stops being a roller coaster and becomes a flowing river. It is quieter, steadier, and far more powerful. The fourth signal is the collapse of seeking. At the start of awakening, there is hunger. You devour books, teachings, videos, searching for the next clue, the next secret, the next practice. You believe the truth is always just beyond your reach. But as awakening concludes, you stop seeking endlessly because you finally realize that what you sought is never outside you. You may still study, but no longer from desperation. You may still listen, but not because you are lost. You feel a deep contentment, an understanding that the treasure was always inside. This is not stagnation, it is liberation. It means you are free from the addiction of seeking and ready to live as the embodiment of what you have found. The fifth signal is the integration of shadow. In the early stages, you may have fought against your darkness, tried to erase it, tried to bury it under light. But as awakening matures, you realize your shadow is not an enemy but a teacher. You embrace it, understand it, and allow it to serve its purpose. Your flaws no longer terrify you. Your past no longer chains you. You stop seeing yourself as broken and begin to see yourself as whole. This integration is one of the most powerful signs that your awakening is concluding, because it means you have moved beyond duality. You no longer divide yourself into good and bad, light and dark. You see that all is one, all is usable, all is part of your truth. The sixth signal is detachment from outcomes. Early on, you may have obsessed over destiny, over purpose, over signs of what is to come. You may have constantly asked, "Am I on the right path?" But as the end approaches, you no longer cling to control. You let life unfold without fear. You stop needing to know every step ahead because you trust the flow. You release the obsession with results and instead focus on being present. This does not mean you give up goals or desires, but that you are no longer enslaved by them. Detachment gives you peace, and peace is a mark of spiritual completion. Chosen ones, when you can let go and still walk forward, you are free. The seventh and final signal is the natural radiance of your being. In the early stages, you tried to shine. You worked hard to be positive, to be loving, to be enlightened. But when awakening ends, you stop trying. Your light shines effortlessly. People feel peace around you without you speaking. You influence rooms without needing recognition. Your presence carries weight because it is authentic, unforced. This radiance is not about showing off. It is about existing in truth. You do not need to prove your awakening because it has become your nature. This is the true mark of completion. Not effort, but essence. When you begin to recognize these 7 signals, chosen ones, understand that they are not signs of loss, but signs of arrival. They mean that you have finished the classroom of awakening and are now ready to live what you learned. Many fear this stage, thinking they are falling away, but it is in fact the moment you rise. The fireworks fade, but the steady flame remains. The noise ends, but the song continues inside you. This is not the end of your journey. It is the beginning of your mastery. Chosen ones, now that you have been introduced to the 7 signals, we must go deeper into their meaning. Because it is one thing to hear these signals described, but it is another to live through them. Many of you have already begun to experience these signs without realizing their significance. You may have thought something was wrong with you, or that you were losing your connection. But in truth, you were stepping into the quiet power that comes at the end of awakening. This stage is not about fireworks. It is about fire. It is not about constant revelations. It is about embodying the revelation. To live awakened is not to constantly climb, but to finally rest in the truth you have uncovered. And that resting, chosen ones, is what transforms your life into something extraordinary without you needing to chase it. Let us return to the first signal, the silence. In the world around you, silence is often treated as emptiness, as lack. People fear silence because it makes them face themselves. But when you are at the end of awakening, silence becomes a companion. It is the sound of integration, the stillness of a soul no longer in chaos. This silence will not always be comfortable. At first, it may feel like abandonment. You may miss the intensity of your spiritual visions and the constant signs. But chosen ones, silence is not a punishment. It is proof that you no longer need training wheels. You have been trusted with stillness because you are strong enough to carry it. Within that silence, your intuition sharpens. You begin to notice subtler energies, whispers you would have missed before. The silence is not the end of communication with the divine. It is a shift to a higher, more natural frequency. The second signal, the collapse of identity, can be frightening. People build their entire lives around who they think they are. Some cling to titles, roles, labels, and achievements, but as your awakening ends, those attachments fall away. You might feel lost without them. You might ask yourself, if I am not defined by these roles, then what remains? Chosen ones, what remains is freedom. What remains is essence. Your spirit does not need a title to shine. You are not valuable because of your job, your achievements, or even your spiritual label as awakened. You are valuable simply because you exist. When the identities drop, you finally stand naked before truth, and in that vulnerability, you discover strength you never knew you had. To live without clinging to roles is terrifying to the ego, but liberating to the soul. It means you can flow into any space, play any part, and yet never forget your essence. The balancing of extremes, the third signal, is often misunderstood. Many people think that balance means nothing ever changes, that you become a stone unmoved by life. But balance is not the absence of movement. It is the mastery of movement. Think of a dancer. A dancer does not avoid motion. They master it, flow with it, and remain centered even in constant motion. That is what this stage brings. You still feel emotions. You still encounter challenges, but you no longer lose yourself inside them. Joy does not make you blind. Pain does not make you broken. You remain steady in the middle. This balance allows you to become a pillar for others. Where once you might have been tossed by storms, now you can stand calmly and remind others that storms always pass. Chosen ones, your balance is not just for you. It becomes medicine for everyone around you. The collapse of seeking, the fourth signal, is one of the most liberating. In the early stages of awakening, you might have run endlessly from one practice to another, from teacher to teacher, from video to video, desperately searching. That hunger is natural at first, but it is exhausting. At the end, you suddenly realize you no longer need to chase. You have arrived. The questions that haunted you no longer hold power because you have already embodied the answers. This does not mean curiosity dies. It means desperation dies. You may still learn, still explore, still discover, but from a place of fullness, not emptiness. And when you no longer seek from lack, what you find is pure joy. Life itself becomes the teaching. A sunrise becomes wisdom. A conversation becomes revelation. The universe no longer needs to scream at you because you are finally listening in every moment. The fifth signal, integration of shadow, is the one many resist the most. We are taught to fear our darkness, to deny it, to pretend it does not exist. But shadow integration is the heart of maturity. To integrate shadow is not to let it control you, but to recognize its place. Anger, sadness, jealousy, these emotions do not make you less awakened. They make you human. At the end of awakening, you no longer run from these emotions. You hold them, examine them, and let them teach you. You realize your shadow was never there to destroy you, but to guide you to balance. Without shadow, there can be no depth to your light. To reject your shadow is to reject a part of yourself, but to embrace it is to become whole. Chosen ones, this integration makes you fearless because you no longer fear yourself. And when you no longer fear yourself, the world cannot control you. Detachment from outcomes, the sixth signal, is freedom in its purest form. Think of how much suffering in life comes from trying to control what we cannot. People cling to outcomes, obsess over results, and despair when things do not go their way. But when you release outcomes, you step into peace. You may still work, still strive, still dream, but you release the obsession with how and when it unfolds. You stop measuring your worth by results. You stop chaining your joy to circumstances. Instead, you live in the flow, trusting that what is meant will find you. This detachment makes you unshakable. When things go your way, you are grateful. When they do not, you are still centered. That kind of peace cannot be bought, cannot be faked. It is the gift of a soul that knows its place in the universe. And the seventh signal, the radiance of being, is the final fruit of this journey. In the beginning, you tried to prove yourself. You wanted others to see your growth, your light, your awakening. But in the end, you stopped performing. You no longer need recognition because you are a recognition. You shine without effort. You influence without trying. Your energy becomes a quiet flame that warms everyone near you. Some will be drawn to you without knowing why. Some will feel peace in your presence without you speaking a word. That is the power of authentic radiance. It is not about being perfect. It is about being true. And when you live in that truth, you become a beacon. Chosen ones, your light does not scream. It simply exists, and that is enough. As we dive deeper into each of these signals, understand that they are not meant to discourage you. They are meant to prepare you. If you have felt silence, disconnection from roles, balance, the end of seeking, shadow integration, detachment, or effortless radiance, you are not losing your awakening. You are completing it. You are stepping into the life you were always meant to live. The end of awakening is not an ending at all. It is the transition into mastery, and mastery is what you came here for. Chosen ones, as we continue unfolding this truth, it is important to understand that these signals do not arrive in order, nor do they appear neatly separated. Often, they blend together, overlapping in your life. One day you may feel the silence. Another day you notice your shadow surfacing. And in yet another moment, you feel the freedom of detachment. This is why many do not recognize them. They expect awakening to end with some dramatic moment, some grand sign written across the sky. But in truth, the ending is gentle, almost invisible, like the turning of a season. You rarely know the exact day winter becomes spring, yet one day you look around and notice the flowers have bloomed. So it is with awakening. It ends quietly, and life begins in a new form without you even realizing the shift has already taken place. The silence, which we spoke of earlier, deepens over time. It does not simply arrive and remain the same. At first, silence may feel empty. You may even fear it, thinking your connection is gone. But as you live with it, the silence reveals its treasures. Within silence, you hear your own heart more clearly. Within silence, you begin to trust yourself instead of leaning on endless outer voices. Within silence, you stop mistaking noise for guidance. The world thrives on noise, on distraction, on constant stimulation. But chosen ones, when you are at peace with silence, the world loses its grip on you. No manipulation can control you. No distraction can steal you, because you have found stillness that cannot be shaken. Silence then becomes not absence but presence. It is the ground from which your clarity grows. When it comes to identity, the collapse of labels can feel like walking through fire. Most people live their lives defining themselves endlessly, by family name, by career, by achievements, by beliefs. When awakening began, you might have replaced your old labels with new spiritual ones: seeker, chosen one, awakened soul. But the end strips even these away. This stripping can feel like loss, as if you are being emptied of everything familiar. But chosen ones, this emptiness is not destruction, it is purification. Imagine holding a cup filled with murky water. Only by emptying it can it be refilled with what is pure. That is what happens to you. The identities you once clung to dissolve so that your essence can finally breathe. You discover that you are not this or that. You are limitless. You are not confined to one form, one label, one story. You are essence beyond definition. And to live beyond definition is to live free. The balancing of extremes is one of the most powerful shifts you will notice. When awakening is new, your emotions are amplified. You feel bliss so intense it feels like it could lift you into the heavens, and you feel despair so heavy it could pull you into the depths. This roller coaster is part of your growth. But when the ride slows, you may miss the highs. You may think, something has gone wrong. I don't feel as ecstatic as before, and yet chosen ones. This steadiness is not loss. It is maturity. Imagine a tree. When young, it bends and shakes with every wind. But as it grows roots, it becomes steady, unmoved by storms. That is what balance does to you. It roots you. You may not feel the constant highs, but neither do you drown in the lows. You become unshakable. And when you are unshakable, you carry peace that others can lean on. This is not dullness, it is strength. The end of seeking is perhaps one of the most liberating experiences. To constantly seek is to live in a state of lack, always chasing what seems just out of reach. Many people live their whole lives this way, always searching but never finding, because they believe truth is somewhere else. When awakening ends, you stop running. You realize that what you were chasing was always within you. This realization is not arrogance, it is trust. You trust yourself, trust your connection, trust that life will bring what you need in its time. You stop clinging to teachers, stop idolizing others, because you realize that all true teachers only ever pointed you back to your own soul. And chosen ones, when you stop seeking, you start living. Life itself becomes the practice. The ordinary becomes sacred. Washing your hands, walking outside, sitting with a friend, all of it becomes holy when you no longer search for something greater. You have found it already. Shadow integration, the fifth signal, is one of the deepest. In the early stages of awakening, you may have believed that to awaken meant to destroy all darkness. You may have tried to erase anger, hide fear, bury pain. But at the end, you realize that your shadow is not here to destroy you, but to complete you. Every part of you, even the parts you once rejected, contains wisdom. Anger can teach boundaries. Fear can teach caution. Sadness can teach compassion. When you integrate your shadow, you no longer see yourself as divided. You no longer feel ashamed of your humanity. Instead, you hold your shadow with love, and in doing so, you release its control. Shadow loses its grip the moment you stop denying it. Chosen ones, this integration makes you whole, and wholeness is far greater than pretending to be only light. For in wholeness, you embody truth. The sixth signal, detachment from outcomes, is a lesson life will test you with many times. You may think you have released control, only to find yourself clinging again when something matters deeply to you. This is natural, but slowly, you learn to let go, to trust. Detachment is not laziness or passivity. It is not giving up on dreams. It is giving up the illusion that you must force everything into existence. It is surrendering control while still walking forward in faith. It is planting seeds and trusting the soil, the rain, the sun to do their work. It is doing your part without demanding constant proof of progress. When you reach this stage, stress fades, anxiety weakens. Because you realize you are not alone in shaping your life. The universe works with you, not against you. And chosen ones, when you detach, miracles flow more easily because you are no longer blocking them with desperation. The final signal, the effortless radiance, is the most subtle yet the most powerful. Others will notice it before you do. You may not even feel different, yet people will be drawn to you. They will feel peace around you, comfort in your presence. Some may ask you for guidance without you offering a word. That is because your energy has shifted. You no longer shine by effort, by trying to be light. You simply are. And true radiance is never loud. It does not seek applause. It simply exists, and its existence transforms everything around it. Chosen ones, this radiance is not a crown you wear. It is your natural state when all else has fallen away. It is not about showing the world you are awakened. It is about living so authentically that the world cannot help but notice. Your radiance is your gift, and it requires no explanation. So when you notice these signals, understand that they are not signs of ending, but signs of beginning. They mark the close of one chapter and the opening of another. Awakening ends, but only so that living awakened may begin. You are not meant to stay in constant transformation. You are meant to live as transformation. You are not meant to forever climb. You are meant to walk in the truth you have reached. Chosen ones, this is the truth no one told you. Awakening ends not in loss, but in arrival. Chosen ones, when you step into the stage where awakening has ended, something extraordinary begins to happen. Life itself starts to feel different, not because the external world suddenly changes, but because your perception of it has shifted permanently. You no longer move through life as someone searching for meaning. You live as the meaning itself. The air you breathe feels sacred. The simple acts of your day carry quiet depth, and relationships are no longer measured by what they give you, but by the shared energy they hold. This is what makes the end of awakening so mysterious to many. They expect lightning bolts and dramatic revelations, but the true ending arrives in stillness, in clarity, in presence. It feels natural. It feels ordinary. Yet within that ordinariness lies the miracle. You finally understand that awakening was never about escaping life, but about learning to live it fully. The silence, once it settles into you, begins to shape the way you exist in the world. At first, you may wonder if something has gone wrong, if you have lost your connection. But over time, you discover that silence is not the absence of communication, but the presence of peace. You no longer need constant signs because you live as the sign. You no longer need endless guidance because guidance arises naturally from within you. Silence teaches you to stop performing, stop proving, stop chasing. It anchors you in being. And when you live from being, you discover the world responds differently. Opportunities flow toward you instead of you running toward them. People find you instead of you searching for them. The universe does not abandon those who reach silence. It surrounds them with a deeper rhythm, one they were once too distracted to notice. The collapse of identity is another layer that becomes more profound the longer you live in this state. When you let go of labels, you also let go of the limitations they carried. No longer do you need to define yourself as this or that. You stop telling the story of who you are and simply live as who you are. In this freedom, creativity blossoms because you are no longer confined to an identity. You can step into many roles fluidly, without fear of contradiction. You can be gentle and strong, still and active, light and shadow, all without conflict. People may not understand you. Some may try to put you back into a category, to name you, to limit you. But chosen ones, your essence cannot be caged. The collapse of identity is the rise of authenticity, and authenticity is a power that no external force can steal. Balance, too, deepens as you embody it. It is not a balance achieved once and for all, but a living state of harmony you return to again and again. You may still feel highs and lows, but they no longer shake you as before. You begin to notice that even in moments of pain, there is peace beneath it. Even in times of joy, there is steadiness at the core. Balance becomes your natural ground. This is why people begin to see you as someone stable, trustworthy, dependable. They sense that you do not collapse when storms arrive. They sense that you are not easily swayed by chaos. And because of this, you naturally become a guide, even without trying. Your presence teaches more than your words ever could. Balance is not the end of emotion. It is the mastery of emotion. And through that mastery, you radiate calm to a world drowning in turbulence. Chosen one, this is the quiet strength that marks the end of awakening and the beginning of living awakened. You no longer need to convince anyone of who you are, because your steadiness speaks louder than words. This balance becomes your gift to the world, a light others lean on when their own storms rage. And as you walk forward with this calm, you step fully into the role you were always meant to hold, not as someone endlessly seeking, but as someone who has become the very embodiment of truth.